Nancy Pelosi is one of the few people on the Hill that is giving full-throated support to Debbie Wasserman Schultz. The rest of the people that are up on the Hill are actively considering moving her aside in order to satisfy Bernie Sanders. This particular clip from MSNBC is a discussion on what's going to happen with Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And in my opinion, I believe that they're going to get her out. Now, other people that are on this panel are probably, not even probably, they're going to disagree, but I'll break it down for you as we roll through it.
We have important challenges here that this election is about. I'm not going to get involved in conversations about personality. I told you that Debbie Wasserman Schultz has the respect of her colleagues in the House for her hard work to unify and to win the elections.
Nancy Pelosi might be one of the few Democrats who has Debbie Wasserman Schultz's back, at least publicly. More and more Democrats on Capitol Hill have been discussing whether to push her out of the chairmanship ahead of July's convention as a way to mollify Bernie Sanders supporters. Wasserman Schultz is not granting TV interviews about the matter. We asked her to join us this week and she declined. But she did tell the Washington Examiner on Wednesday that she is, quote, not at all distracted by the criticism. Yamiche and Jamal are back with me. Yamiche, I'll start with you. Just in covering the Sanders campaign, is anything short of Debbie Wasserman Schultz's ouster going to calm the Sanders forces ahead of the convention?
I think that anything short of that is going to continue what we see now, which is really a lot of dysfunction and a lot of anger coming out of the Sanders campaign. He's already said publicly that if I'm the president, that I will remove her. And I think that anything short of her kind of leaving, it can continue. They can continue to argue that she's biased, that she's kind of always been backing Hillary Clinton, and that she's always been kind of very angry at this idea of an insurgent candidacy that is Bernie Sanders. And it's really interesting because when you look at kind of how Bernie Sanders has been fighting the party, it's really been about Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and he's really been taking her on one-on-one. It's one thing to say that the Democratic Party is not treating me fairly, and that, you know, we should have more debates, and that I don't like the way that the primaries are held. It's another thing to say that I'm going to remove you from your job if I am president. I think that that's a very personal issue, and that's kind of going into this area of really contentious that we didn't really thought was going to happen with the Democratic Party. So I think that it's just really kind of adding fuel to the flames. I think this is very personal, and I don't foresee Debbie Wasserman Schultz leaving office and then they pick somebody new, like I'm not sure, Nina Turner or somebody. I don't think that they're going to be able to do that. So I think that the Sanders campaign is not really going to be satisfied unless she's gone.
Yeah, and everybody and their brother knows that Debbie Wasserman Schultz has been bending over backwards in order to support Hillary Clinton. And it's so bad that even Fox News is commenting about how biased Debbie Wasserman Schultz is against Bernie Sanders and how she's trying to tip the scales for Hillary Clinton. So this is no surprise.
I'm for Nina Turner being everything. I think we should just appoint her to every important role. Jamal, because there's also the question on the Hillary Clinton side of where does it end, right? That if you give in on this, the next set of demands are that Barney Frank also be removed as the head of the platform committee and that Dan Malloy be removed as the head of the rules committee, or vice versa. I think it's vice versa. That there are all these demands that do feel in a way like they are about settling personal scores, right? The anger at Dan Malloy is because he's criticized Bernie Sanders on guns and on that lawsuit that the Sandy Hook families had. The issue with Barney Frank is his personal criticisms of Bernie Sanders, and then you've got this Debbie Wasserman Schultz thing. It's score settling. So where would it end if they give them Debbie?
It's not score settling, it's putting fair arbitrators in positions. You might as well slap a giant I love Hillary sign on Barney Frank's forehead as well as Dan Malloy, because both of them, whenever they give interviews, and I've just seen interviews done on MSNBC, Bernie Sanders is an unapologetic supporter of Hillary Clinton, period, as is Dan Malloy. So Bernie is asking that they get these two guys out of there and put in some, at least on the surface, neutral people to run those two committees. So it's not score settling. It's basically trying to level the playing field.
You know, Sanders, it seems like Sanders is in the middle of throwing off these sort of hand grenades and lobbing them into the Democratic Party. You know, in your last segment, you talked about Cornel West being on the policy committee. I mean, that is literally, a rhetorical grenade that he is setting in the policy committee to go off at any moment whatsoever. Endorsing Debbie Wasserman Schultz's primary opponent, the same thing. I was with Chair Schultz this week, and she was not that worried about this. And here's a technical point. It's really hard, technically, to remove a Democratic Party chair and then appoint a new one. There are 441 members of the Democratic Party who have votes. And those people are the ones who actually elect the party chair. The president can make a recommendation to the committee. So to go through removing a party chair, selecting a new party chair, and to do all of that in the next 60 days before we get to the convention, when in fact what happens is at the convention, the new nominee gets to place his or her people into the committee, and they end up making most of the decisions. So I'm just not sure it's a fight anybody's ready to have right now.
But at the same time, though, Yamiche, you've got all these headlines that came out this past week about Democrats on Capitol Hill actually discussing whether it might be better to just go ahead and do it. She doesn't seem to have a lot of organic support, Chairman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and that it does feel like there's so much criticism of the way that she's conducted her job that maybe people might throw her over. Do you get that sense?
I get that sense that there are people who want to criticize her anonymously. Most of the reporting that I've seen has been people kind of giving quotes on background, not wanting to put their name in print.
Sure.
Because then to me that tells me that if you're really about criticizing Debbie Wasserman Schultz, you'd be like Jeff Weaver or you'd be like Bernie Sanders on TV, on national television saying we should remove her. The people who are saying that criticizing her are not ready to put their name out there. So I think that that's really important. The other thing that I think is really important is the fact that when I think about kind of how she's going to be changed and how this is going to happen, you don't really see how you're going to be able to remove her. And I think that that's also something that's really an issue.
We are out of time. Quickly, we're out of time.
George, just keep in mind, there are a lot of negotiations here, who the VP is, policy stuff, the chair, a lot of things for Hillary Clinton.
Well, you guys are coming back in our next hour, so we're going to have more in our
All right, so, they're going to get her out. These guys can say whatever the hell they want, but they're going to get her out. They're going to bring, do whatever they got to do to bring a new chair. If they have to take one of the existing co-chairs and promote that person up, they'll do that. But Schultz is going to be out of there. And I damn sure hope that Tom Canova, who's running against her in the Florida primary, whips her ass. Now, it doesn't seem likely, but this bitch needs to sit down and take a rest.